Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Harry from Hasper TV back with another match reaction video. So this match reaction is not one I expected to kind of do in terms of scoreline. Spurs went to Craven Cottage and lost 3-0, and it could have been worse, surprisingly. I mean, Fulham could have made it 4 or 5 in the end. But yes, Spurs lost 3-0 away to Fulham after beating Villa, of course, 4-0 last week, which this is just kind of Spurs in itself. You can't expect us to go to Villa and lose, and then we go and win like by convincingly in the end because of circumstances, I guess. And then we go to Fulham, a team where we do actually have a very good record against them, and also, ironically, a very good record against Marco Silva. And we go and lose for the first time in a very long time, and quite convincingly as well. Now, from the off, Fulham were way more aggressive, way more direct. But Spurs started as they've started most first half of this season, basically after the first 10 games. Lethargic, just no urgency. I think the major issue with this system and maybe even this manager is we're just too relaxed when we start games. And the players think they have more time on the ball than they really do in this Premier League. But even I've even seen that from Romero, he takes too long on the ball. But it's like we played this. I don't think we kind of played a different way today compared to the rest of the season. I just genuinely think the style was a problem now. I think if people noticed in the first half, especially, Ange didn't change in the second half, so maybe it's all the game. The inverted fullbacks, which some might point to us as our reason of our so-called success this season. I use that inverted commas for a reason. Fulham exploited those pockets that they left. Now, rather than adjusting in-game management, Ange just carries on doing the same tactic. And this is something which I've mentioned Poch in previous videos, comparing to Ange, because people do speak and compare and say, they play a similar style. They play not exactly the same system. Of course, Poch used his fullbacks as more like sort of wingers in a sense, and the wingers would come inside. In Ange's system, that his fullbacks invert to overload the midfield. But besides the point, and also it's throwing against low blocks, which again is a very big comparison. Now, Poch often struggled in these sorts of games because, again, we would pass, and pass. But I think almost like Ange is like, okay, he mentioned in previous interviews that he's copying Pep, sort of like a passing joke. Now, I know a lot of people, they think it was joking, but I do think that some jokes sometimes are the truth, right? So he's trying to walk the ball in the net, and we've been like this all season. So to me, it's like not a surprise that we're still trying to do the same things and the same tactics. And Poch was, again, there's another one who's very stubborn, not when he changes tactics. And yes, Conte was another one who wouldn't change his tactics. And I give massive credit to Jose because he was one of those managers who did change tactics. And Harry Redknapp, in to a lesser extent, did change it up. I think Redknapp changed formations a lot of times during games. Of course, we played back in those days the classic 4-4-2, but he did do variations of doing. I remember even the diamond in this first season he did it for a while. We played a 4-4-1-1. I mean, 4-2-3-1 didn't really exist back then, but that was the closest to it, I guess. And he played a number of different players in the whole and during that time period. And even he used to play some number 10s like Van der Vaart on the right. Like they would mix it up. But Ange is like, it's almost like he's even more stubborn than Conte, I think. Because at least Conte, I did see some very small sort of experimentation in some games when he would go 4-4-2 or whatever. Maybe that's due to lack of players as well. But Ange just doesn't change anything. And then in the game today as well, he waits till we're 3-0 down to suddenly bring on the 3 substitutions. The game's gone by then. And yes, some people have argued online and argued in forums and WhatsApp groups and like that. We did play better of those substitutions, but what people tend to forget is Fulham already knew the game was done. It was 3-0, they're at home. The foot was kind of, it's funny me saying this, Fulham kind of took their foot off the gas, right? Comparing to Spurs, you would think it the other way around. And this is what happened. I mean, because of more attacking players on the pitch as well, we did somehow create some chances. I mean, Werner missed one, Johnson missed one as well. Both, for me, tap-ins. I think Son was, and I want to talk about Son now, okay. Son, for me, was so poor today, and it kind of shows all the points I've been making before. I'm not saying Son's rubbish, by the way. I'm not saying I'm against him, But for me, he's not a captain because in these sorts of games, your captain galvanizes the players when they're 2-3 and down to carry on playing. I didn't see any of that from Son. I think he just felt sorry for himself, and in his post match, he felt the same way to me as well. I think he just said, "Oh well, we know we will play badly, blah blah blah, and it's unacceptable for me, blah blah blah." But I don't see him saying. I can't see him being a person to rip into the players. I haven't seen it on the pitch. I've seen Madison and even Højbjerg when he came on, and who's on his way up, by the way, directing players, and that he just doesn't seem that. And people may argue, oh, well, as an off-field captain, he's really good, blah, blah, because of what it represents, blah, blah. But I hate, if I was playing with him, like, he wouldn't inspire me to come back from a game for 2-3 down, like obviously Liverpool did back in Istanbul years ago. So for me, I just think I still say what I say, he's a marketing choice for a captain. Not only that, though, he had a really, really poor game. And obviously the rest of the front, Kulusevski again was poor. Johnson was poor. The midfield, Basuma again, he's poor. I think Saul was the only half-decent player in that midfield today. Madison, despite creating some half chances, wasn't at his best. And the back line, I thought Dragston, to be fair to him, I thought he did okay, but Romero was very shaky. He was even played, for the first Fulham goal, he played on, was it Ruiz onside? If he took a step forward or back, whatever you want to look at it, then he's offside. So he was culpable for that, in my opinion. I mean, Adogi, he was meh. Porro again, a bit meh. They were all right. Vicario, I can't blame for any of the goals. I don't think he made some amazing saves either. But it's not his fault that we lost the game. To me, it's down to tactics. It is down to personnel as well, but I think what hurts me most is it's more the manner in which we lost. We lost 3-0. I think some managers, when you go to like half-time 1 or 2-0 down away from home, they tend to tweak it. They can just say, maybe make a change at half-time to reinforce the midfield, or maybe they switch wingers, or because even back at Conte, he used to sometimes switch the fullbacks just to try something different, try and make them inverted, I guess, at the time. And Jose obviously used to always make early substitutions. Poch, again, he was kind of like Ange, very stubborn. And I think Ange is probably even more stubborn. He was watching us not capitulate, maybe that's the right word, and didn't do nothing about it until we were 3-0 down. And you think of all, like I said, all the hard work we did at Villa has just been thrown away in the space of 90 minutes again. And okay, we're 2 points behind them. Now obviously there's this race for 4th or 5th, because obviously there's a possibility that 5th will qualify for Champions League. But are these players, because when people say, oh, bottled it, and we basically did bottle it, but are these players really good enough for the Champions League? As in, we might get in the Champions League, but we'll be good enough to survive, in the sense of not to even survive, but to Arsenal's credit, they've got to the quarterfinals and they haven't looked that bad in the Champions League. Will we be like that? I don't think so. If we make the Champions League, I don't think we will, especially because Ange made, again, comment saying he didn't really care about where we finished, just the football that we played, which I thought was a bit weird. Saying, oh, yeah, the club's finished 4-4, blah, blah, blah. And then I think he spoke to Haters TV or something, or BBC, or, all the press afterwards, after the Sky Sports interview or before. I imagine it was afterwards. Anyway, and he said something like, oh, 4th, 5th, as long as we have a team to challenge for next season. Now, Ange has all season been kind of hinting that we're still in the title race, which I thought was absolutely bonkers. And if you watch Tottenham away, Stel has mentioned many times that the club believes that we will be in the title race next season, which I think, again, is absolutely bonkers. With the attack we have, with the defence we have in terms of depth-wise, as well as just inexperience, and midfield where, yeah, it's probably our strongest area, but we still need like one, maybe in a few years, 2 players there, but at least one to kind of reinforce the defensive side of it, because I still don't know how our first choice number 6 is. So I think we maybe need to bring someone in who's going to say, look, this is my spot. Because, we're way off the top 3. We're way off the title. And that title talk earlier in the season after 10 games, I think it was bonkers. I even thought it was bonkers back then, but I don't think it was bonkers now that people even thought that way. But it just comes off as like delusional. Like, I don't think Spurs fans, and I don't think it makes me sound like the club doesn't even realise what position we're in and how far away we are from the top teams. Unless we have, everyone says, a big summer, Like I said, I think we need a left back, a right back, because we're going to need that Porro and don't do a lot running. Yeah, we're going to need players to cover there and playing the cup games or Champions League games as soon as we get in. We'll get into Europe in the Thursday nights. You know, we're going to need more depth to survive. And then you obviously got the strike force, probably not the right word, the attackers who need quality work in terms of we don't know what our best front three is. And again, some people may argue Son should be there, but I don't think so. I think it's up for grabs. Unless Son's going to be just a tapping merchant on the end of through balls, he's not going to be offer anything. Like today, he didn't offer anything. And Johnson, we know about Johnson. They're going to give him another year. Kulusevski, what I would do with him, I would just move into the middle with Maddison and maybe give Maddison breathers, because I think Kulusevski's best football this season has been as a number 10. And I'd go out and buy like a top right winger. And again, up front, we go out and buy a top striker. Harry Kane still hasn't been replaced. So there's a lot of work to do. I'm not saying let's get rid of the manager, start all over again. But I just want the manager to make, to me, many different comments. If he said, and I'm rewording what he said, if he said, you know, 4th and 5th, it doesn't really matter, but I want the club to spend money so we win a title, or okay, if we finish outside the top 4, it's not the end of the world, but I still want to push on next season and go for a Premier League title or win a trophy. But again, he dismissed the trophies earlier in this season about the cups, saying, oh yeah, we could win one Carabao Cup, but what in the grand scheme of things, how they're going to help us? But I'm sorry, mate, we haven't won anything for 16 years. And this, to me, is like the same comments Poch used to make, and it's just, I'm just watching like a B-Tech Poch, pretty much, with Ange. And I actually think is getting to naivety now, not just an experience of the league. I think it is naivety of the way he does things. He just thinks, oh, this has worked in Japan, it's worked in Scotland, so it's going to work in the Premier League. It doesn't work that way, mate. The Premier League is a totally different level, totally different league. Unless you wake up and start adjusting to the team, because you can't always play this inverted way. Maybe at home against, like, I don't know, a low block, maybe you should be playing these inverted ways and stuff like that, except have better attackers, because then we could get the job done. But away from home, you can't always play this way because the teams will come at you, and maybe you even need to learn to play a bit further back, because we can't keep playing this high line and having those spaces in behind, especially without Van de Ven, who today we massively missed because of the recoveries. Now, I kind of feel like I've diverted off topic. It's gone to a very long video, almost 15 minutes, but I'm going to carry on talking for a couple more minutes longer, because this is on recording, so you guys will see it. And yeah, so on the 3 goals, just what were these players doing? Ball watching, blaming each other. It was just so poor. And people say we can see the same time of goal. One was off a set piece, no surprises there. One was sort of like a, not deflected, it was sort of like a cross, and then that. But they were just exploiting the wide areas, which again is our weakness. And then, so look, I understand if we're playing Fulham at home because we're the team on the attack, sorry. So playing this inverted way and blah, 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 and naturally they will play a low block in that game because they are away from home, makes more sense. But if you're playing away from home, Mr. Postecoglou, you need to take into consideration the opposition you're playing, especially a team like Fulham who did turn over Arsenal earlier this season. And this is not me saying we should have won today because Arsenal didn't win today and blah, 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 because everyone, I'm sure someone will post that narrative later on saying, oh, well, Arsenal lost to them, so Arsenal lost to them shouldn't be the end of the world. But it's more the manner. It's just we didn't even put up a fight. At least Arsenal put up a fight. And they took the lead in that game, actually. So looking in the long term, the manager needs to buck up his ideas. You know, we need better quality players in a number of areas which I've mentioned. Tactics, stop being so stubborn, Ange. And is this guy just pulling the Levy PR line, oh, trophies aren't important, blah, blah, blah. We're looking for something bigger, because that's the same lines Poch used to do, and look what happened to him. So yeah, I'll leave you with that. 15-minute video. I didn't expect to go this long, but come on, you Spurs.